Hi, my name is Paige Seitz, and I am a student in ALEC 640, Methods of Technological Change, at Texas A&M University. This reusable learning object is on marketing organic cotton products. My dissertation research focuses on improving the sustainability of cotton and increasing the preparedness of extension personnel to provide programming that will ultimately lead to better sustainability outcomes. Today, we will focus specifically on what makes the organic cotton industry unique from module to market, and I will encourage you to think outside the box about some of the challenges of the industry. Today's learning objective will be to recognize the steps of post-harvest processing of cotton from module to market and be able to discuss the factors that may affect marketing of organic cotton. Organic cotton is itself an innovation. As Everett Rogers tells us, an innovation is any idea, tool, strategy, practice, or anything really that is perceived as new by members of a social system. Like many other innovations, organic cotton affects multiple social systems whose members may or may not choose to adopt. As consumers, adoption has increased due to awareness of sustainability issues and impacts of the textile industry on climate change, soil degradation, and water conservation. Farmers have been aware of this innovation for some time, but generally choose not to adopt because it is considered less profitable due to lower yields. Also, due to some of the management practices of cotton specifically, organic production is not possible in areas that do not receive a hard freeze to defoliate the crop by late fall. In Texas, this means our organic industry is solely located in the high plains. We could also mention change agents, such as extension personnel, agronomists, lenders, and other stakeholders, as an additional social system that may or may not choose to support the adoption by farmers. Texas produces about half of all U.S. cotton. The primary organization for organic growers in Texas is the Texas Organic Cotton Marketing Cooperative, otherwise known as TOCMC. The cooperative was started in 1993 and has grown to about 35 members. Farmers who came together to advocate for the industry, promoted educational opportunities for themselves and the public, and improve marketability through a cooperative. The organization serves as the provider for all organic cotton in the U.S. and coordinates everything between harvest and sale, including ginning, baling, fiber testing, and traceability. The cooperative of farmers grow between 7,000 and 17,000 bales of cotton per year, which is largely dependent on rainfall. To provide some context, one bale can produce over 200 pairs of jeans or 1,200 t-shirts. So this is a video produced by TOCMC that walks you through the ginning process of cotton. All right, so let's recap what we just saw in the video. So organic cotton is stored separately from conventional in the ginning yard. The next part is not as obvious in the video. Once all the conventional cotton has been ginned and all of that machinery you saw is thoroughly cleaned, then the ginning of organic material can begin. So one thing to keep in mind with this, and we'll talk more about it later, is that that cotton is sitting out in the yard in the elements until all the rest of everything else is ginned. So then once its organics turn, the cotton fiber is separated from the seed and the fiber is pressed into a bale using a hydraulic press. It's then strapped together and a fiber sample is pulled from the outside. The first bale is sold as conventional, just as a quality control measure to make sure all of the previous fiber is out of the machines. Then each bale is wrapped in a numbered sack, and that number is used for traceability to track the bale back to an individual farmer and field once it has been sold. The seed is also sold to organic dairies as cattle feed. So that concludes our new information for today. I really want you to take a few minutes to unpack that and think about some questions. So you can write these down or just kind of mull them over in your head and hang on to your thoughts. And if you're doing this lesson as a class, then maybe spend a few minutes working individually to think about your answers and then find a partner and have some discussion on your thoughts there. So the first question is, how could the processing of organic cotton be improved? Do you think that demand could drive this change? Number two, what effect does consumer awareness have on organic cotton markets? And number three, are there any foreseeable undesirable consequences of organic cotton production for producers? What about consumers? So pause the video here, give these some thought, and continue on when you're ready. There are no wrong answers, but I will share some thoughts on the following slides. All right, so let's talk about number one. So maybe you thought of some of the things here that I'll mention, which is fantastic. And maybe you thought about some other things, which is really great. So here are some points I wanted to make sure that you take away. So like I mentioned before, as cotton sits out in the gin yard, it's exposed to the elements that decreases the fiber quality the longer it sits there. Right now, the industry shares a facility with conventional growers because the industry isn't producing at a high enough rate to justify the cost of building their own gin. So if consumer demand can increase, hopefully more farmers will see the advantage of growing a little less cotton for a much higher price. In this case, the industry would continue to expand and justify the investment into organic gin that stands alone. So number two is another iteration of our first question. Again, if consumers increase demand and drive the price higher, maybe it would appeal to what we call the farmer's relative advantage. Relative advantage is how much benefit organic production has compared to the conventional cotton that they are already growing. So that market price increase may be enough to change their innovation decision to adopt, where before they had decided it wasn't worth it, or it didn't appear to have a relative advantage over the conventional cotton at that time. Okay, so number three, this one's a bit hypothetical. Our question asks about undesirable consequences for producers and consumers. So here we're looking at the big picture to try and prepare for things that may or may not happen down the road. So for producers, this may look like flooding the market and crashing prices because a whole bunch of farmers decided to transition their acreage all at the same time. This one is probably unlikely because the process to transition takes a few years, and TOCMC or another organization would be well aware ahead of time. So hopefully they could plan accordingly and increase the number of sales contracts to move that product. Another consequence is we could continue to see erratic weather patterns that decimate production, like we saw this year in 2022. Farmers are already hesitant to quote unquote go organic because we have data that shows a decrease in yield. To farmers, this translates directly to their bottom line. An unreliable yield could cause them to discontinue their organic practices and return to conventional because they have more management options when the season has extra challenges. For consumers, these unreliable yields could create supply chain issues and or lead to unstable pricing. If you were a company that had already forecasted to make and sell 1 million organic cotton rainbow unicorn t-shirts next year, and you couldn't purchase the cotton, your company would have a lot of angry preteens and their parents to deal with. Perhaps that's a bit dramatic, but the point I'm trying to make is that there are always consequences, desirable and undesirable, that result from our choices, and we have to at least attempt to think those through and prepare ahead of time to make these transitions as easy as possible. So with that, here are the references that I use for this RLO. So if you want to dive further into some of the content that I shared, some of the statistics with USDA Economic Research Service, or go check out the TOCMC website. They have some really cool videos on there. These are some direct links for that. So with that, I hope you learned something new today and have a great day.